What else is going on that I got? Concerning them flat rate concerning them blanket tariffs. In America, you see, when Donald Trump put them tariffs, start putting these tariffs on these nations, man, these blanket tariffs on these nations, man, America is a dual economy. So when you have a dual economy, that is going to cause hyperinflation. If you just put tariffs on people, you know, sometimes it don't cause hyperinflation. But since America is a dual economy, it will cause hyperinflation, man. You see? A dual economy deals with the rich and the poor, man. And America is a dual economy, man. Let's see what we got here. Is America a dual economy? See, according to many economic analysts, including Peter Tiemann of MIT, the United States can be considered a dual economy. See? America's a dual economy, man. Now, can tariffs cause inflation in a dual economy? Let's see here. Can tariffs cause a inflation in a hold on. Can tariffs cause a dual inflation? Cause inflation in a dual economy.
According to Brookings Institution, impact of tariffs on inflation. As seen in Figure 4, tariffs would also have an impact on inflation. The tariffs would cause inflation to rise in the U.S. by over 1.3 percentage points.
So you heard what it said. So, let me see. Can tariffs cause inflation in a dual economy? See? Ah, boy, not terrorism. Can tariffs cause a inflation in a dual economy? I gotta spell it out, boy. This fucking shit. Excuse me, excuse me. It ain't giving me nothing. Oh boy. Can tariffs cause inflation in a dual economy? Can tariffs cause inflation in a dual economy?
According to Brookings Institution, impact of tariffs on inflation. In the case of Canada, inflation would decline as U.S. tariffs lower economic growth, but should Canada then impose 25% tariffs, inflation would increase, reflecting the impact on the price of imports from the U.S.
So, why is it ain't letting me about a dual economy? Well, that's what's... I made the beats in my home. Newspaper going back. Well, what I wanted in the dual economy, man, if you look it up in the dual economy, tariff can cause inflation. But I think it came up concerning tariffs can cause inflation, okay? And the cost of goods will cost more, man. So that's what's going on in the world too, you know? That's what's going on in the world, man. So I thought that I'd bring, you know, information concerning them articles, what's going on in the world. So now we finna get back into the scriptures, right? It says, I'll read that again in Peter, right? This is 2 Peter. Back to it. This is 2 Peter's chapter 3, verse 4, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. So all them articles that I just showed you, those are conditions to where America gonna end up falling and caving in, man. You see? So that's what's going on in the world, man. And hoping in America, Babylon the Great, is not going to be beneficial, you know, because these Edomites are at war with each other, man, and it's going to end up a great war, man. Okay, so this is John. It's John, right? I think it's John 14 that I wanted to go. Yeah, John 14. And so understanding 2 Peter the 3rd chapter, understanding that all things continue, you know, concerning his promises. And you look at scriptures like John 14 and 3, it says, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. So the Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans gonna have a great future, man, and we're gonna be on other planets, man. So you see, so I read that again. This is John 14 and 3, and it says, and if I go and prepare for you, let me see, John 14 and 3, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. So the Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans are gonna have a great and beautiful future, man, because YAHAWASHI is gonna come again to deliver the Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. You see? Back to the Father. This is so reading scriptures like that, you hope and trust in YAHAWASHI, and looking at all them articles that I just showed you, man. Hey, ain't no hope in Babylon. Ain't no hope in this place, man, because these Edomites are at war with each other, man. And the videos I showed you in the beginning, man. You know, this thing going on in the world is not being reported, you know. This is, we're finna jump to Luke. Right? This is Luke. This is Luke, let's see what I want, 24, and so he told him that, YAHAWASHI told him that he was going and prepare a place for them, you know, and we was gonna be there also. And then before he left, he opened, you know, the minds of the men of the Lord concerning scriptures concerning him. So we bring things like this out to give you hope through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI. So this is Luke chapter 24. This is Luke chapter 24, verse 44. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. Then opened he their understanding that they might understand the scriptures. So them understanding the scriptures placed on them hope, man, that Israel was gonna have a great future, man, concerning the Negro Latinos and Native Americans, man, about they have a savior, man. Verse 46, and said unto them, thus it is written, and thus it behooved a Mashiach to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day, and that repentance and the remission of sins should be preached in the name among all nations, because Israel is scattered everywhere, beginning at Jerusalem. And ye are witnesses of those things. Verse 49, and behold, I have sent the promise of my Father. Verse 49, and behold, I have sent the promise of my Father upon you, but tarry ye in the city of Jerusalem until ye have been endowed with the holy, with the power from on high. Verse 50, and he led them out and as far as to Bethany. And he lifted up his hands and blessed them. Verse 51, and it came to pass while he blessed them, he was pardoned from them and carried up into heaven. Verse 52, and they worshiped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and they were and were continuing in the temple, praising and blessing the power. Amen. So seeing that right there, it gave them hope that they was gonna have a great future, man. So that's why I read them scriptures, because Yahawah opened their minds up back then, the men of the Lord back then, and he opened our minds up today to let us know that the promise is still coming, and 2/3 are blinded, and they gonna come with their attitude, where is his promise, man? We see the scriptures. We see the future, that our future is going to be great through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI. So we got hope in YAHAWASHI and his word, not in Esau and Babylon the Great. This place is doomed.
Well, the good news is that nothing keeps me awake at night. I sleep very soundly. I always have. I see the world a little differently. I think there are a number of different developments right now, all of which deserve serious attention. Particularly if you live in Washington. By the way, I spent 50% of my time in Orlando and 50% of my time up in Washington in my jobs. And I'm often confused because both of them, to a greater or lesser extent, are fantasy island. And in Washington in particular, there's a failure to understand the world. And that's because we have been the center of it, at least in our imagination, since the end of the Second World War. There are many nations, India, China, Iran, I don't want to go down the whole list, but these are great nations that rest on the foundation of ancient civilizations and cultures. They are roaring back into the world. They have either been sidelined, oppressed, suppressed. Now they're coming back into view, and they're not the only ones. You see some of this in Latin America as well. We're not very comfortable with that, and we have a bad habit of denigrating it and ultimately grossly underestimating them. And we've seen that with Russia. That's not a new phenomenon in the history of the U.S. government. So the world itself is changing, and we are not really changing at all. Our view of the world is that we are the center of it. It's a huge problem. Secondly, we no longer have the monopoly on technology that we once did. Most of the technologies that people are expressing concern about, particularly in terms of military application, those were ours 30 years ago. They are now proliferating everywhere. This has changed warfare fundamentally. We have not changed. We don't even look carefully at what's been happening in eastern Ukraine and recognize that that's a very different kind of warfare from anything that we had seen since World War II. And of course, the other problem is that if you don't like the world you live in, then you create fiction. We do that very well. Ukraine is winning. The Russians are losing. They have no chance. Nonsense. Just total nonsense. The Ukrainians have had at least 1.2 to 1.5 million casualties, over 600,000 dead on the battlefield. The Russians have taken, on the whole, about a ratio of about 1 to 6, 1 to 7, 1 to 8, one Russian versus Ukrainians. And as this war has wound down, the numbers of people being killed has risen dramatically. That happened during World War II. The Germans took their worst casualties in the last 6 months of the war. People don't understand that. When armies collapse, when they fall apart, that's when you take the heavy casualties. But the Russians have taught us a great deal, though we don't care to learn from it. And then finally, when you look at the financial situation, I would argue that the United States, in particular, our economy, is afflicted with stage 4 terminal cancer. It's no longer a question of when will this grossly inflated bubble, the bubble of many bubbles, collapse, but when it will happen. And I think we're looking at something like that in the next year. This is going to have a big impact because you cannot maintain the kinds of forces we have all over the world intervening in other people's affairs, telling other people how to live, if you can't afford it. We have $1 trillion defense budget. It's unaffordable. And people are saying, well, we have a new administration. I read the headlines yesterday. The House and the Senate want to add $200 billion to the defense budget. It's insane. This is not sustainable. I don't know how it resolves itself, but as far as you're concerned, the only assets that are worth having in the future are hard assets. Keep that in mind. If it comes out of the ground, whether you grow it or you dig it out, it's valuable. We're headed into that situation. And when you talk about things like rare earths or gold, I mean, the housewives in India now control more gold than the Bank of England. And BRICS is hoarding gold in general, Russia, China. But of course, as Bernanke said, why do banks keep gold in reserve? Oh, well, it's a tradition. This is what has brought us to this point. So we're at the end of a 30-year cycle. Now, some people say, well, 70-year cycle, but if I go back to 1991, look at where we were, where we stood, how healthy we were, how we still had a manufacturing base. Today, China has a larger manufacturing base than the United States and Europe put together. We have no surge capacity in terms of our military power. That means that if you suddenly need a lot of ammunition, you suddenly need new weapons, rockets, missiles, so forth, you can't get them. So we're in a difficult position, and this new president is going to face all of this. And it's not going to be easy, and it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I would not hazard a guess on what that is.
Yeah, I want to pull on...
For destruction, right? You see? All right, so, we finna go to Revelation, chapter 6, right? Now, before I read this in Revelations, right? Why I read it and then I break it down. Now, this is Revelation chapter 6, verse, Revelation chapter 6, verse 5. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balance in his hand. Verse 6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the fourth beast saying, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. See thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Now, the video that I just showed y'all concerning Douglas McGregor, and he see the world, because Douglas McGregor is a colonel, and the colonel is beneath the general. He's retired, and he see the world the way it is. America is not like it used to be. The hegemon. It's not like it used to be. And he see that Iran is coming forth, India is coming forth, Russia coming forth, China coming forth. The people that used to be shunned and looked at as backwards, now they coming forth and telling America that they ready, man. And America's still stuck in the bubble as if they sit on a level to defeat these countries, which they not. And Colonel McGregor is explaining that. So that was the video that y'all seen. Now going back to Revelation chapter 6, verse 5, right? And before YAHAWASHI come back, these things are going to take place on the earth. Now, what I want to do is Google something, right? Now, let me see something here. Let me check something real quick. All right, now, I'm finna check something out. Now, before I read this again, I'm finna check something out concerning a penny. What could a penny buy in 93, hold on. In the ancient world, what could a penny buy in 90 AD? That ain't it. In the ancient Roman Empire, what could a penny buy? Nah, that ain't it. A day's wages. In the ancient world, what could a day's wages buy? That's what I meant to say. Around 93 AD, what could a day's wages buy? Still ain't coming up. In the ancient world, 90 AD, what could a, no, it ain't 90. 90 AD, what could a day's wages buy? All right, it says, it says in 90 AD, so you gotta keep, sometimes when you know what I'm saying, speaking in the Google, it'll bring all different type of stuff because of the speech of this English speech, man. I leave it at that. You know, when you look into Google. So it finally came up. in 90 AD, a day's wages would be roughly equivalent to 1 Roman denarius, which was considered a standard daily wage for labor at that time. All right, it says a silver coin, the silver coin used in the Roman Empire often referenced in the Bible as representing a day's work. This is let me see some of that. Well, I'll tell you this. I looked it up. I'll show you where I'm at. All right. Now, a day's wages, right? A day's wages can buy you food, and it also can buy you shelter. Okay. A day's wages. Okay. It also can buy you food, and it also can buy you shelter. Now, when you deal with this penny that goes into a day's wages, right? Let me see. I'm gonna go back and break it down, but I'm just trying to build up and show you where I'm getting this stuff from. Let me see. This in the blue letter, right? And when you look in the blue letter Bible, Denaria, right? And it's Strong's G 1220, right? And it says a denarius, right? Containing 10. It says a Roman silver coin in the New Testament time. It took the same name from its beginning, equal to 10, acid. A number after 217 BC increased to 16. About 3.89 grams or 1375 ounces. Right? It was the principal silver coin of the Roman Empire from the principal from the parable of labor in the vineyard. It would seem that a denarius, then the ordinary pay for a day's wages. So that was a penny, man, a day's wages, right? So that's why I was saying what I was saying concerning in Google, right? So when you go back out, right? So a denarius going into that penny was a day's wages, right? Well, let me read the scripture again. Like I was saying before, YAHAWASHI come back, these things got to take place. And Donald Trump putting tariffs on these countries, blanket tariffs on these countries, is going to cause a problem for America, man. It's making it unstable to where the countries would not want to do business with America. By him doing that, putting sanctions and making the dollar a weapon and put blanket tariffs. So this is Revelation chapter 6, verse 5. And when I had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see," and beheld, and lo, a black horse. Now that black horse represents economic hardship, which is a famine. Okay? And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Now, when it's a famine, you weigh out food, and those balances is to where you weigh out and you distribute a certain amount. You don't give a big portion like you used to, because it's an economic hardship and it's a famine. Okay? So that's what that balance represents. Okay? Then it says the balance is in his hand. Then it says verse 5, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see," and behold, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Verse 6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts saying, a measure of wheat for a penny. So understand, a penny of a day's wages, that could buy you food and give you shelter. It's gonna come to the point to where you can only buy loaves of bread. You see, let's get that in the different translations. Revelation chapter 6, verse 5. Or 6, I mean. This says, all right, this is a new, let me finish this off. Salaki about that, let me finish this off. It says, this Revelation chapter 6, verse 6. I was jumping ahead of myself. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts saying, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. All right, so let's get that in different translations. See what we come up with. This Revelation 6 and 6. It's the New International Version. It says, Then I heard what sound like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages. And do not damage the oil and the wine. It's the New Living Translation. It says, the New Living Translation, and I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings saying, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay. And don't waste the oil, don't waste the olive oil and wine. So you see, so that's, since it's a economic hardship and it's a famine, that's gonna cost you more just to get barley and a loaf of bread, man. You see? So that's inflation right there, man. So that's coming to America before YAHAWASHI show up, man. That's coming, man. Let me see what alright, this is the Amplified version in a different This is the Amplified Bible in a different translation. This is Revelation 6 and 6, right? And it says, I heard something like a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius, a day's wage, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not damage the oil and the wine. The olive, yeah, do not damage the oil in the wine. So see that? So it's gonna cost you a day's wages just to get bread, man. When a penny was a day's wages in the ancient world, to where you can get food and shelter, man. So that's telling you that it's gonna be an economic hardship, man, and it's gonna be a famine, man. You see, before YAHAWASHI show up, man. You see? So there you go.
Yeah, I want to pull on that. Thank you, everybody. And so if America therefore finds itself in a world where everybody else has evolved and changed and they have not, or failed to register that change, therefore still living in a bit of a fiction of the past, right? That we are the hegemon and nobody can challenge us. But from a technological standpoint, that's not the case anymore. And that's effectively what you're saying, Colonel McGregor. That paints a bit of a dire outlook for, an American bull, right? If you're long American power. What would be the counterpoint to that? If you were to look at like a George Friedman analysis who would say that we're going through growing pains in the West. This is very typical of an empire as it matures. It's got to grow into the next thing. The world's changed, it's got to change too, but it lags. But the future and America's best days are still ahead of them. Any thoughts on George's analysis and that thesis from anybody on the panel?
Well, I would say one thing right off the bat. We tend to think in linear terms in the United States. In other words, history is progressive. It's a steady line that just goes up and up and up. But if you go to Asia, things tend to be circular or cyclical. We're in a different cycle right now. We haven't come to terms with it because we're living with this linear equation. So I think that needs to be borne in mind. And if you're talking about the United States, if you're smart right now, you cut your losses everywhere in the world. If you're an American, you get out. You get out of all of these places, you come home. And of course, everybody says, well, that's not possible. The world will collapse without us. Certainly did very well for about 5,000 years without us. So I don't see much evidence for that. But that's the argument. If you guard your borders, you control immigration. You don't have to fight wars overseas. If you end sanctions, stop bullying people. We bribe, bully, or bomb you into submission. People have said no more. It's over. Moscow said no. Iran is saying no, and China is standing right behind and saying no, and India is now saying no. This has got to stop. And we've got far more problems in this Western Hemisphere that desperately need our attention than anything overseas.